So don't think that this is... I know I prefaced it by being like, well, it doesn't have as much meaning. I think that was a little bit bad for me as well, because I think this match still does have a lot of meaning. Yes, it doesn't have a lot of meaning in this very matchup today. You know, that series score is decided, but the map score itself could go a long way. So we'll see how much these guys value that. Because you never know when your one map win here could be all the difference further down the line. Maru is in the top right, Clem is in the bottom left. As we get into game number 1 of what will be our final 2 maps of World Team League today. Don't worry, in an hour and a half we do have more Starcraft 2 coming for you in the DreamHack European Closed Qualifiers. So that's coming up in an hour and a half or so. Until then, you guys got this TvT action. Now, the last few times these guys have played, it's always been an absolute joy to watch. I'll not forget the matchup they played in the, was it the TSL they played in, I believe? That was very, very exciting. That one was one that Maru won out on and after a crazy long game. Was it TSL? Aces ROG, that was it. I remember watching somebody cast it. It was Roddy and the Muslim casted it while I was taking a break for that event. Clem beat Maru one time in the season finals of DreamHack SC2 Masters last year in the group stages, but other than that, Maru has had Clem's number in the King of Battles, in that Aces ROG, and in the Katowice group stages, and that's got me a bit worried, especially because those Katowice group stages, Clem was on fire, and Maru just came and, you know, crapped all over his parade. He said, yeah, cool. You just beat some of the best Terran players in the world, but, you know, don't forget, I'm freaking Maru. And everyone was like, oh, he's Maru! And yeah, Maru kind of bopped Clem in that one. So yeah, that gets me a little worried, and especially what gets me maybe more worried is the fact you guys obviously, I'm sure you know about the Clem Kira series recently. Clem having a bit of trouble against Kira in the WardiTV Spring Championship, 2-3. And the first time they met, 1-3 the second time they met. And that has me worried that Clem doesn't quite have the Korean TvT figured out a little bit as well. And maybe that's something that Maru will use to his advantage too. Of course, Maru plays TvT very differently to some of these other guys, and especially what we saw, as I was mentioning in that previous series with Bunny. When he played against Bunny those few weeks ago, he was playing very long-term games. He was really looking for the late game. He was really jiving for, you know, or vibing around the later stages. He was hoping for that and playing for that a lot of the time. So that's something very different to what Clem played against when he played against Q, where he was fighting Q, he was very aggressive and got into really good positions early in the game, you know, creating attacks that really put Clem behind. A few things to keep in mind there. Lots of preface to this matchup as expansions come down either side. There is a proxied starport from Clem, so he's going to be the initial aggressor in this game, looking to be the one to move out and say, right, let's do this then, let's party. Let's get this fight started in the most aggressive way possible, basically. So that's what Clem begins to set up for here. So Hallian's looking around, not going to find that proxied starport just yet, as Clem has the medevac coming through, so he will be aiming for a drop in toward Maru's main base. Maru's got his own Hellions on the natural. He's actually making his own medevac, so he's also looking to drop Hellions. Just his medevac isn't proxied, so his attack is going to hit those few seconds later. Compared to Clem's, it's going to be kind of close. You can see obviously just the medevac trailing behind a little bit for Maru is going to be the one thing delayed versus Clem's medevac already arriving. So what, Clem gets a 3 to 4 second advantage on the Hellion drop, and that's going to be about it. So let's see, as in we go, going to start dealing damage. And this is a real question. I mean, both of them on the way to the same sort of defense as well. Cyclones on the way up, Ravens building, Marines already out. As both players will be doing a lot here now. How much will Maru start to do? He is starting to even up those workers killed already. Those numbers are ranking up across the map. Yeah, all those Hellions. The Cyclone out, though, from Clem already. And obviously, here's the thing. Because Clem's attack is a little sooner, he's got more time before the Cyclone came out to deal with this, or to deal damage with this, compared to what Maru had. So now Maru gets cleaned up, and Clem is still going here. So Clem is still the one finding a lot of the early damage in this game. He's got a couple more SCVs he can aim for. There's one low HP one. Does he want to go back for it? He will. He really prioritizes just killing as many SCVs as possible. And Clem is going to come out with a 15-ish supply lead. So, a bit of a crazy situation that Clem is able to come out better on, as they both basically go for mirrored build orders. Just Clem is hitting a little bit sooner. Again, thanks to proxying up the starport. Now, that is a downside as well for Clem, because now his starport is out in the middle of the map. His ravens are building in the middle of nowhere, so they are very much so just abandoned out in the waste, and they're going to have to try and find their way back home of their own accord. We'll see if they can manage that without too many issues. Or if they are maybe going to somehow get picked off on the way home, that would be disastrous, of course. Something to worry about there as this Raven of Maru shows up, and he's got Clem running the SCVs before the auto turret even goes down, which is great, because you're basically getting the effect of the auto turret, and then the auto turret actually goes down. It's going to last even longer, but he will lose the Raven, so Maru is going to lose out on the Raven here. Clem able to pick that up right away. That's a nice kill. Obviously, any Raven energy is valuable Raven energy, and it's a lot of utility that Maru is going to have removed from his game now, unless you want to add on yet another Raven, and typically you just can't do that because it's so expensive. Like, it's a pretty costly thing, a Raven. You can't just be like, oh yeah, we'll just get another one of those. That completely throws off everything else in your build order. In a big way, so... yeah, can't really just be like, ah, yeah, whatever. Doesn't work like that. Clem already pushing, knows the advantage he has, I think, and realizes his attack lasted longer, did more damage. Had a higher effect here overall, so he's going to come pushing over. Drops into the main base. Oh my goodness, what's he going to do? Auto turrets. Doesn't actually go for it. I really expected to see an interference matrix here, but he auto turrets instead. That is wild. I don't know if that was the play, honestly. I mean, kinda. He's still got these Marines up. They're still doing okay. 6 SCVs killed. He traded alright in the army. Not the best. What if he'd Matrixed? I mean, he might have only had one Matrix, but if you kill that first siege tank anyway, and then you Matrix the other, do you not just keep the rest of your units up for so much longer? I kind of want to say yes, but I don't want to be... I don't know. It's a tough decision to make, and obviously you're fighting in that exact moment. At the end of the day, Clem does come out with a pretty reasonable amount of... pretty reasonable work account and advantage once again. He gets quite a few workers out of this, so... a few workers going down. He's going to take a 12-worker lead. Clem maintaining that advantage. Elsewhere, advantages, while his third CC is finished up and in position. Maru's is still morphed into an orbital in the main. Clem has Stim about the same time as Maru. He's going to be faster on engineering base and also faster onto additional barracks. So, those are the advantages that Clem is going to work with here. That Cyclone's still setting up around the top side. And what a wild little game to start us off on here. You know, this gets me even more sad if Clem wins this game, that, you know, one of the other Liquid guys couldn't pick up a map just to really maybe make this an epic series for Liquid to show up in, and, again, maybe really mix up the middle of the table even more so than it already is mixed up. Vikings and tanks spreading out, of course. Clem has to be careful. Being overly aggressive can absolutely backfire when you're playing against Maru. I know he's got the supply lead. I know he should be aggressive, but you just got to be careful in your approach of it because it's so easy to misjudge a situation. And this is what Maru is great at: buying time, waiting things out, just letting, you know, time pass by, all that kind of stuff, and just waiting for the right moment. Clem is now going to have Stim. Is he going to Stim in here? If he does, his Marines are very low HP. They'd get shot down by a siege tank very quickly. He's going to deny the third from mining, so he's already gaining a pretty sizable advantage in this moment in time, right? So that's going to work out pretty well for him. 2 more medevacs going to start making their way out across to the top of the map as well. Oh, Maru takes the third CC on the top side. Now, this 12 o'clock base, not really where you want to be, because what this means is now Clem can siege up your main, and he can drop into your main much more easily. So defending the third no longer really protects the main base position being taken. Obviously, it defends drops into the natural a little bit more naturally, But the siege up and the play into your main base is generally a little bit more important than that. So that's why most players take their third in that forward position. It's also much more easy to push forward from, etc. It's just easier in general, I think, less area to really cover with tanks, basically. So Maru now having to take the less effective or the harder to hold third base. That's something else to keep in mind as, man, look at the upgrade difference. 1-1 done against 1-1 starting. Massive lead there for Clem for sure. Another way in which he will lead in this game. I'm going to pull the trigger. He's just going to start moving into this. Vikings going to land from Maru. A couple Liberators here trying to hold this position. That was not it from Clem. And again, that's why it's so dangerous to play against Maru like this, because Maru is so good at weighing it out, playing patiently, and just letting the game develop into better and better setups for himself. He's not afraid of just sitting back and letting this play for a long, long time if he has to. And that is one of Maru's strengths. And again, Clem that was not the bust, right? He does not have enough power to get through there. Those Liberators slow down a lot of the Marines before they go down. It buys time where the Marines are hitting the libs instead of making progress toward the siege tanks. And that gives the tanks more time to get more shots off as well, which is obviously hugely important. Marines and tanks going to siege up, picking their way through these rocks. Vikings going up against each other at the moment. A few more Marines just continuing to come on through. A couple extra Vikings continuing as well. Racks all building. I'm just going to hold this position. I mean, right now, main goal for him has got to be to kind of just focus on stopping a fourth base from coming up, right? If you can stop that, that's going to keep you in the lead in eco. That allows for some of these worst trades. Obviously, remember that we're on our way to 2-2 against 1-1 still here, so Clem still has that advantage massively in his favor. I'm just going to stay siege, hold back, play the most defensive position he can. I mean, Clem's got the right idea. 6 Vikings at a time, air control, get Liberators up, do things that Maru can't. Maru can't afford all this air control. He can't afford to compete with that off 3 bases. And Clem's adjusting his play in the right way to just deal with how Maru likes to play. Maru likes to sit back and wait when he's behind. Clem says, sure, sit back and wait all you like. It's not going to do you any good. I can appreciate that. Clem's definitely just seen how the first couple of attempts to bust went, said, okay, let's take a different approach. You've got air control, that's definitely helping you. Let's take that away from you. You can't keep that air control. That's right now, Vikings are just going to trade out. And again, these are trades which, in the end of the day, Maru just won't be able to afford. He's not going to be able to keep the, keep the Viking count up like that. There's no way. Air control is just way too expensive. What's really crazy, though, is I'm pretty sure Clem would have killed most other players in the world by now if this wasn't Maru. Like, Maru's just so good at knowing exactly where to place the units and where exactly to have stuff positioned to maximize his chance of winning. And like I say, Clem doesn't take those previous fights just thinking, I can win this when I'm not usually meant to. No, he usually wins those sort of fights. That's why he takes them. And that's what's so powerful about Maru in these situations as well, right? You're kind of baited into fighting him because you're like, well, I'm pretty sure I win this. So then you go and you try and win it, and you're like, whoops, that was a mistake. Why didn't that work for me? And well, the answer is because Maru's pretty freaking good, and like his unit positioning is great, and it seems like every Terran can just siege up their tanks defensively, but how come it's only Maru that draws these games out so much so? From such a deficit. Yeah, we've heard of TvTs being held off when one player has an advantage and the other does not. Maru's now going to base trade this, giving himself his best possible chance of winning this. So, Clem, the good news is he's already in the main base trying to deny production, but he's not going to deny a lot of the production, to be honest. Maru's going to start making his way towards the production right away. What does Clem have in his own main is going to be a pretty important question here to defend, because obviously Maru has a fair few units to defend with at home. Clem's supply is plummeting, by the way. Clem's supply is absolutely plummeting. He's going to get these tanks sieged here. Clem's supply is plummeting because he really already tried to bust on the other side. And what Clem's done is obviously he built like a crap ton of Vikings. Now, building a crap ton of Vikings was good to take air control, but air control doesn't necessarily dominate in the base trades all of the time. So that's kind of how Maru has been able to get across the map with such a sizable force. Now these Vikings lift up, trying to get away. Clem started up a couple libs as he did protect his production lines. Liberators could be the game changer with that Viking air control. You get the Liberators up, you can break siege tank lines down. And like I say, that can be the game changer, right? The access point into your opponent's tank lines. Having something to make the difference in that is absolutely huge, as these couple starports going to have to lift on up as well and move on away. It's going to have to go rally elsewhere. Clem's work account only at 11. Maru, if he actually gets bases back up, is going to have a pretty serious advantage in that regard. I'm still kind of holding the front, though. His army supply in the lead. He's going to land his Vikings. Try and push through here, but he's landing them quite far away, so those tanks, again, well spread out, kind of leapfrogged around, and that means that they're going to have a pretty good time, honestly. So the tanks really do a good job of defending. Clem now going to start using these libs, and again, just sort of decided he could burst a little bit too soon. Gonna get the siege up here, though, and a lot of the tanks in Maru are going to go down. Massive win for Clem. Finally getting a bit of a win on the board out on the map. Again, Maru has a crap ton of SCVs, but none of them on a mining base that can be effective or anything at this point in time, so nothing to really get too excited about when you look at that work account. That's where a lot of Maru's supply is, so the army supply lead, or the supply lead right now for Maru, is, again, not necessarily true of his position in the game. As Clem is slowly, finally making his way through all of this. Man, what a tough time that Clem has had here at the end, after it really felt as though he was so far ahead. And again, like I was talking about, I sort of felt I was maybe overdoing a bit on the, oh, Maru's so good at defending and drawing games out storyline, but man, this is why we talk about that, because Maru is so good at taking a lost game. He never had a fourth base in this game. He's so good at taking a lost game and making it into something somewhat plausibly successful. Like, it could work, you know? It nearly did work. I don't think it's going to work at the end of the day, but it honestly could have done, right? Like, it had a chance. It had a very realistic chance as Clem slow pushes into the main. He's going to lose one of his bases here again, as he needs to get those SCVs back. He was trying to keep the orbital alive, so trying to find a bit of a mix of what to do on that regard, as the tanks will protect in the end. Clem has basically no money left, so really just wants to keep anything alive he can. I'm slow pushing this main base, will not let this up. I'm just going to keep that one going through. So we are going to push on in. Vikings landing, I mean, Maru just trying to flank in to try and clean this up, as it's very close at the end. The last couple of Vikings at Clem going down, oh my god. He drops on top of that siege tank. Tanks are going to drop back out from Maru. I was a little bit clicked away at the wrong moment there. That was a real bawdy move. Clem, look at Clem's face. He's like, are you serious? How are you alive? How did you survive this push? How did you bust through me? In the end, he types out GG. Clem does have a couple units left in the base, whereas Maru does not. And Clem sort of set up. Pick this one up into Romanticide. Let's get this going. Bottom right-hand side. He won the first game. Can he win the other? Just to make a statement. I think highest rated TvT in the world right now in a Ligulac. Let's see if you can keep that up as Clem in the bottom right. 1-0 up against the Blue Terran in the top left-hand side. From Team NV, it is Maru. Never doubt Clem. It's not that I was doubting Clem. It was just... I mean, it's... yeah. I mean, I've got no words after that series, to be honest with you. Game spoke for itself. What a treat to watch. What a treat to watch. Nice long map. Romanticide, nice large one. Definitely one you can play a longer game on if that's kind of what you want to aim for. Definitely a possibility. Definitely what he was trying to do on Oxide. Hold that game out, draw it out, but of course that's because he ended up behind early as well, so... intrigued to see what happens if Maru doesn't fall behind early, if he has the position to get on the map early and take locations and stuff like that. People on the way up from both, Factory on the way up from both, so I'm gonna match each other play for play at the moment. Not too surprising in TvT if you're both gonna open double gas. There's only really so many things you can do, and you'd be hard pressed to really find yourself falling behind in some of them. Moving back through the middle again, everyone. Looking around a little bit as we get set up here. Just CC's coming down, expansions popping from Romanticide, and you see both kind of match each other, kind of blow for blow. Rotoman against a Hellion is going to be a difference. Also, Reactor versus a Reaper still building is going to be a difference as well. So a couple differences starting to come out on. Would am I going to be completing that Reactor finishing on the racks? Don't mind, actually, gets an initial shot off. Is see a few things going down. Did my game sounds just go down a little bit? Sorry, guys, my game sounds just got a little bit quiet. I don't know what happened there. Sorry. Bring them back up. Feel. Let's get up and running again. A few units continuing around and getting set up for the moment here. Going to see how things will go. All those Marines rallying out. Units from Clem coming through the middle of the map as well. Again, Raven coming up on either side of this. Really get this just up and running. Maybe from Maru gonna hop into the main base. I go for an SCV kill. It's gonna delay the third from building. Obviously, you pick up on the fact the third base is building as well, which is another little bonus. Reaper continues through. SCV's getting bobbed by the Reaper grenade. Obviously, Raven production just coming through. Neither player looking to really go take the jump on the other guy at the moment. So pretty even across the board in that regard, at least. Now just going to take the forward position, just getting ready for his third base to come on through. Again, not really too much immediately crazy going on here, right? Just a lot of slow build up, a lot of getting ready. And there's just a lot of trying to match each other, as obviously Maru takes a little bit of an upgrade lead there. We'll see if that really comes into play at any point. That's the thing as well, right? You know, we got this sort of stage of the game where a little advantages here and there, especially on a map like Romanticide where you can play so defensively. If you fall behind in upgrades, it's kind of simple. You just don't take a fight. Like, you know, you just don't need to take a fight. You can just kind of chill out. You don't have to do much. So yeah, it's definitely very much so just... This is what I imagine Maru wanted. He wanted a game where not much happens early. He wants to let this go to the later stages. Wants to let this build up into this kind of position, and... well, here we are. He kind of gets his wishes, huh? Clem has a mild supply lead if you want to take that into consideration. I don't think it really matters all too much. Like I say, if you're a little bit behind on supply right now, typically it's just going to be offset by the... this is going to get offset by the fact that TvT can be so defensive, so you just stay defensive and you're going to be okay. Or not even just defensiveness in TvT, but just being able to move around and threaten so much yourself, etc. All that kind of stuff definitely has roles to play. Rest of our Marine tanks starting to move forward, so Maru is going to be the one to start being a little aggressive right now, bringing this army in to the front. Everything in the center from Maru setting up. Command center going to drop down once again. Again, a lot of build up at the moment. A lot of getting established, lots of getting ready to go. Nice day, isn't it? It's a nice day. Just chilled out TvT. One of the more passive matchups. And like I say, there's just really not a lot between these two at the moment. There's really just not a lot between the two of them at all. This army of Clem still kind of pushing through the center. Alright, you have a bit of a clash here as Clem heads up to this top side. He's going to at the very least deny a center tower of Maru. As we have essentially a 4-base versus 4-base standoff here. I'm holding the air control at the front at least. Going to use this as a chance to get in range of that first siege tank. That will go down. Maru going to have to go up at least a little bit of position, but I'd be kind of shocked if Maru didn't have a plan around how to work this. And there's his own air control. Whether it's enough is Different question. We're going to start fighting here. Anti-armor missile goes down versus auto turrets from Clem. There's two different approaches to this. The auto turret's doing work, by the way. Picking off a whole bunch of those siege tanks to the front. You've got to disengage and respect the anti-armor missiles. On the right side, Maru was moving an army out, but looks like he'll bring it back a little bit now instead. The huge part about Clem's position is that these tanks are so impossible to get on top of with Marines, because the rocks protect them on either side. So you can't really flank them very easily or anything along those lines. It's going to be a really tough position to break by brute strength and just by pulling units forward, right? I think the Vikings here from Clem are going to lose out on this fight. Maru seems to have a little bit too much. Although two tanks to try and move forward here, they are. One of them goes down. Now the Marines are going to make a stim in. Like I say, it's going to be a horrible decision to fight there because the position that Clem is in is just so freaking powerful. Maru might be able to break out of this, but at a huge cost. Look at the supplies coming out of this. Clem trading fantastically. Resources lost 9,100 to 6,600, favoring Clem. And this is honestly a game where not much happened. Just Clem was the one to make the move. Clem was the one to get in position, and he's taking full advantage of that right now. He is taking full advantage of that right now. Viking on Viking action. Few Vikings of Clem coming through the center. Firing up a storm. Do you see the Corvid reactor on the way from Maru? Building that in the main base and aiming to get some Ravens out. That's the Raven energy starting upgrade. So Ravens start with more energy. As with air control, Clem now has a lib or two. Going to try and use this to push back the siege line. Maru is rebounding. Trying to get back into a decent position when it comes to supply. Obviously getting back towards maxed out. There's that base on the left side. The fact that Maru could take a 5th base during this obviously is very powerful. Really gives him the chance to... Well, actually gives him an opportunity or a chance to maybe possibly stay in this game. I mean, you can see on the left there's that base, but how do you get there as Clem? How are you going to land the Vikings? I think that was a misclick. How did you misclick to land the Vikings, though? That was just a decision that went wrong. A lot of army from Maru out on the right side. Clem's obviously focused a lot on the attack, so I've got to make sure you're kind of okay on the right side as well. Clem is going to be down in upgrades soon as well, by the way. He's about to be 2-2 against 3-3. Something that Maru prioritized while Clem really focused on air control. So this fight for Clem may not go very well for him when down on upgrades. Well, he's actually not down on upgrades yet. What's actually just going to be the issue for him is that his tanks were in the front, so Maru's able to jump on those tanks right away. Then he's got a better Marine count, so he takes down the Marines, and then the Liberator is sieged up as well. Clem gets cleaned out, Clem gets pushed back. Vikings in the bio in the center just pulling it around a little bit still. More command centers and Liberators all coming through. Additional starports from Clem also building here as our Cyclone has a lock on. Is going to get a siege tank. I mean, Cyclone for a tank at this stage of the game, you don't mind that trade for sure. Definitely feels like Clem, good air control, but has maybe been lacking a little bit of the power necessary on the ground to keep this up. Matrixes do get down on those siege tanks, so immediately Clem just has to back it up. Magically, he doesn't actually lose those siege tanks. Not just yet, now the tank siege, and they will get them. Clem has the Liberators, he can set those up. Does he have Lib range yet? Once he gets the Liberators on top of these tanks, they can be pushed back. He just unsieged all the Libs with the Marines moving forward. I actually don't think he needed to do that. I think the Marines, the Libs alone would have actually just started to clean out those Liberators. Clem is going to hold on out down on this bottom side. Clem also has a bit of a higher worker count. That might be why his army on the ground seems a little bit weaker at times. That is also a possibility for sure, and that's, I mean, definitely adds to it. There's that Liberator range. Like I said, it was kind of felt necessary, you know? Kind of felt necessary. Because if he has Lib range there, he can just push that army back so much more easily than what he ends up having to do. Not that what he ends up having to do is super bad for him or anything, just could have been easier, right? That's going to siege around the right. There's a hell of a lot of libs right now as well. If Clem gets into a position, I'm not sure what Maru does to really hold it. You can see the 5 bases now expanding up to 6 as Maru. Clem takes the top right, so he's on 6 as well. Maru's kind of holding more, like a larger stretch of bases. Because he holds a 12 o'clock and a 9 o'clock, whereas Clem just kind of holds the right side of the map in general. These libs are going to siege. Clem takes a few shots, but the libs sieging, these tanks are going to have to get the hell out of there. Loses a couple of them. Yeah, it's going to be intriguing. Maru's now going to try and take the bottom left as well. And Clem's going to start taking the center, so they're both going to end up in this position where they're essentially starting to hold bases in far-off places all of the time. And that's going to be one of the big things later in this game, if one of them can hold some of these bases that the other cannot. We'll see if the way it's currently going. It's not really to say that one player is going to be able to do that over the other guy just yet, as Clem's air control is undeniable, though. Like, what these Vikings and Liberators are doing is just ridiculous. Getting up in range, getting in the face of these tanks and stuff. Just getting so much damage out of all of this, and the Vikings even making some good pickups. Now, there's that Raven count from Maru. We've not seen that for a while. Remember, he got that Corvid reactor, and he never really told much else about Raven since then. Well, he's got this Raven count that's been building in the background, and now he's maybe ready to bring this into play. That's going to be firing. A little bit of a few magics is going down here initially, and Clem out of position because he was focused around the top, and he didn't catch Maru's swing into the center. Clem gets here now, though, and again, look at what his Liberators can do. They just disengage this army of Maru instantly. Now Maru can stem up into the natural, where Clem actually just about got a siege tank up there, but then it's not sieged. I mean, the one downside of this from Maru is that it's obviously very committed, so you probably don't get these units out of here, but the damage he's getting done, you'd probably say that it's fairly worthwhile. He still has Marines and Auto Turrets going to work here, as these Vikings now want to try and work their way through Ravens. The support of these Auto Turrets helping push this back for Clem as he gets into the main. And his low ground, a lot of his production down here being hunted. If he can just get these Vikings onto those Ravens, the value you can find out of this as Clem is going to be huge. Those Ravens are so expensive. Rebuilding those is not really an option for Maru, so you just can't afford to lose them in the first place. But look at how much power they have. With Auto Turrets dropping down, instantly reinforces any position on the map. And because you have so many of them, those Auto Turrets almost feel endless. Push around, gonna get down over here. This tank gets matrixed as well. Again, just feels like there's endless amounts of Raven energy in play at any point in time right now, as again, getting out of here is tough. Maru is just about going to be able to slip away. Clem just doesn't have that slight edge off this, location covered. And Clem has had a few kills with the Vikings, and overall, Clem's still kind of holding on. He may lose this Planetary Fortress, which would be a base down, whereas Maru has all but one of his bases on the map at this stage. So that's nice for Maru to actually be able to deny a base of Clem. Clem not really doing anything like that himself, although if he can hold on here, maybe he could swing this around into a good counterattack of his own. PSUV's going down, not sure where that harassment is at, but somewhere out on the map as Lib's going to siege. These few Marines taken down. The tank gets obliterated. Bang, bang, just goes. Now Clem's going to make a push. Like I said, if Clem gets some momentum, he can make a push forward. His army's terrifying when it gets in position. It's Maru's counterattacks that are scary in their own right, and that's what Clem is kind of thinking about here. You can see Maru just moving across as Clem goes to deny the bottom left, but now Clem's going to have the heart of his army attacked once again. The Marine count here is just massive. The Liberator siege, and that's a massive interference matrix as Clem shakes his head. He knows that ain't good. He knows his Libs can't fight for themselves right now, so he's in some trouble. He has a lot more Libs in the main base, but that was a wipeout. That was not where he wanted those Libs to be. They were unsupported. And Clem just doesn't actually have enough units on the ground at the moment. That's what this is coming down to. Not enough units on the ground, and hence the pushing power of Maru with that Raven support, and that's just how the game ends. The Raven support onto those Liberators. Clem's air control was so powerful, but Maru's answer to it was pretty stellar. He didn't worry too much about it, handled it in his own time, closed this out, and wrapped this up.